In the next game, things follow pretty logically, and yet black develops a dangerous attack. Let's see how that happens.
White starts with c4 this time.
This is the start of the English opening, although in many cases it can transpose back to one of the queen-pawn openings.
f5.
This is the Dutch defense.
d4. Knight f6.
Black did not put any pawn in the center, however, still attacks center squares, the e4 and d5 squares.
Knight to c3.
White continues developing.
And black plays e6.
It's a logical move to open up the diagonal for the bishop to develop.
White develops the other knight to f3. Black develops the bishop to b4.
In this opening, usually it's recommended to develop the bishop to g2 to fianchetto it, and also to delay the development of the knight to c3, exactly to avoid this spin. There was no rush to play knight c3. It's probably better to do g3 first.
Queen to c2.
White wants to avoid the capture on c3 and then needing to capture the pawn back. Now, after bishop takes, the queen could take back without ruining the pawn structure of white.
Black now castles.
Finally, the king is in safety.
White plays e3.
Getting ready to develop the bishop. Again, maybe a better idea to do it the other direction.
Now black wants to fianchetto the other bishop by playing b6.
That's a very typical move. It's like almost a queen's Indian. The bishop develops on the long diagonal to b7.
White develops the bishop to e2.
Getting ready to castle.
Black develops the other bishop to b7.
Logical move after b6.
Finally, now white's castle.
Well, it's true that white castled, but I'm not so sure if it's quite to safety. If you look at the long diagonal, the bishop is already pasting right at the white king. So while it's not in real danger, but it's certainly a little bit worrisome to put the king right there.
Black played bishop takes c3.
Black is starting a series of attacking moves.
Queen captures the bishop. Now black plays knight to e4.
Black willingly captured the white knight, giving up bishop for a knight in order to gain time. Now the knight came to e4, improving the knight's position and clearing the diagonal for the queen as well as space for the rook to get out.
Queen to c2. Black plays rook to f6.
This is a typical type of attack that also white with reverse colors often plays in the Larsen opening, starting on the very first move with b3. In fact, if you look at the position and you imagine the black pieces being white, it's like an identical copy of the Larsen opening.
White retreats the knight to d2.
And that's already a mistake. Probably it's better either to leave the knight here or maybe move it back to e1. But moving it here, as you'll see, will be causing trouble for white.
Black swings the rook over to h6.
Now black already is getting ready to get the queen out and threaten with different checkmates.
White plays g3.
With the idea to avoid the queen coming to h4. For example, after f3, black would capture the knight first on d2, bishop takes, and then follow it up with an attack with queen h4. However, that was still better than what white did. G3 is very, very scary looking. This is one of those things. A move that looks bad usually is bad. And when you see a bishop pasting here, right at your king, usually to open up a diagonal is suicidal, as is in this situation.
Knight takes d2.
Here black has several choices, but the simplest is to capture the knight.
Bishop takes d2.
And now I'd recommend you to again put stop for a moment and think what's the winning move for black.
Black plays queen to h4.
Another beautiful queen sacrifice, threatening checkmate, and white can resign, because if pawn takes queen, black checks with rook g6, and the only move is to delay resignation by blocking, and then rook takes to checkmate. What happened in this game that white lost so quickly? White seemingly did the normal moves, developing, castling, and yet lost. Well, try to remember a specific pawn formation and the bishop pasting along the long diagonal. What did white wrong? It was bad enough that the bishop was looking right at our king, that we could have in a way avoiding by developing the bishop rather to g2 than to e2. But that was still okay. The problem was that even after white had at least two pieces on the diagonal, to at least holding the bishop off a little bit, moved first the knight away and then moved the pawn away. And that created a deadly threat because of the control of that long diagonal of the bishop. Be careful, don't make such a moves in front of your king when a bishop is pasting right at you.